All right, welcome. Hi, everybody. How you doing?
Awesome.
Welcome to Therapy Unlocked, where we discuss all things therapy from an unlocked perspective. I'm Emily Huffman, and I'm here with Katrina.
Hello, Katrina Mondragon, licensed professional counselor. All right, so like I said, I am a professional, but not your professional. So nothing we're going to talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.
Education, amusement, and because I would like to be famous. So please like, subscribe, follow, engage, hate on us, join the conversation, find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram, find us anywhere where you listen to podcasts, because I love a creeper and I love a hater and I love a lover. So if you like the podcast, if you dislike the podcast, I'd like to hear from you. How do you validate your own emotional experience? Because I've definitely found myself saying this to myself. Why can't I get over it? In fact, I think I said it to you today. Why can't I just let it go? I hold on to too many things. I am beating a dead horse. I am just holding on to this. Why can't I let it go? How do we validate our own emotional experience that we hold on to things?
So there's actually like a how to validate. If you Google it, there's a how to validate oneself. I'll bring up that lady's name again, Linehan. She did a one on radical acceptance. And radical acceptance is like wholeheartedly mind, body, spirit, whatever you believe in, accepting the way things are as they are. That doesn't mean you approve or condone, but just accepting. And so I'm kind of forgetting your question. Go back to your question for a minute.
Just how do we validate our
validation?
Own
yes. So she says to validate in like a step-by-step way as a way to, I don't know why I brought up the acceptance. That was maybe separate, but the validation, yes, you can internally validate yourself by the same way that you would say to somebody else, but it's kind of hard to do that. So the way that you might think of it is a double standard method. Most people will think, okay, what would I say to my friend or my loved one? And then you formulate a response that you would say to that person, maybe write it down, maybe speak it into the phone, record it, and then don't try to say it back to yourself, but like listen back to your voice or read it back from the paper. So you're not hearing it from inside your mind, because you're not going to listen, or you may not listen, I don't know. But hearing it through the ears, for some reason, can process a little bit differently. And that's just something that I've learned over the years, is hearing it through your ears is different than thinking it in your mind.
Okay. So maybe recording yourself before I got divorced, I would record myself on TikTok and save it to my drafts. I wouldn't post it, but it honestly, I kind of feel like it saved my life. I would sit there after an argument or maybe just in the middle of the day, and I would record myself and I would talk to myself and I would say things like, don't forget what this feels like. You are so hurt. This is not okay. You don't feel right now. Because an interesting thing happens in traumatic situations, and we forget. And I'll be careful here. But depending on what happens to you, you can forget. You can forget what's happened. And like you just said, the brain does interesting things, and sometimes you need to hear yourself in order to really make an impact. And so, yeah, recording yourself can really validate. So that's excellent advice, to sit and record yourself. Another thing, and I know you've done this before too, and I know because she's my sister, I love to talk to Chat GPT.
Yes.
Talking to Chat GPT is so validating.
And I found a new one, also AI. His name is Cloud. A bit more on the emotional side.
I'm a hater of Gemini. I don't like Google Gemini.
Oh.
Google Gemini is so rude. I will ask Google Gemini. I got Google Gemini on my new phone and my new computer. And I don't know if I'm going to get like doxxed now and hated, but like Google Gemini, I will ask Google Gemini a question. Google Gemini will give me an answer. I'll hate it. I will go over to Chat GPT. I will ask Chat GPT the same question. Chat GPT will answer me. I will love their answer. Love, love, love it. And I'm just like, what is Gemini's problem? Why doesn't Gemini like me? I feel like Gemini's a mean girl compared to Chat GPT, but I'll have to check Cloud out.
I was going to say, I've worked a little bit with Gemini. Gemini, she misunderstands me. And so I think they just have a few bugs. They don't have the algorithm down.
I think that Gemini might be, I don't know, listeners, let us know. What do you think? Who's the best? Gemini, Chat GPT, Cloud, or someone else? Hit us up in the comments. Let us know.
There's so many out there.
I'm really feeling like Chat GPT is the gold standard myself. I don't know. Who's your favorite cat?
I've actually toyed around with one called Goblin Tools lately. It's a free one.
I love Goblin Tools. Goblin Tools is like my administrative assistant. Chat GPT is my bestie. I don't know Cloud. I'm sorry, I'm not Mariah carrying. I just literally don't know Cloud. And then like, I don't know her. I am Mariah carrying Gemini. Like I don't know her. I don't know her. Yeah. Okay. Back on topic. Why do so many people struggle with self-validation?
Oh, it's really hard to see yourself when you're in the picture, I think.
Yeah? Why do you think that is?
Have you ever heard that saying, we are our own worst enemy or our own worst critic?
Great song. And yes.
And that's because we are way more, like we as a species, I think, are way more mean inside our minds to ourselves than we would ever be out loud to another human being.
That makes sense.
That's why I think validation is so hard. And that's something that I wanted to mention was this book. Have you ever heard of a therapy called internal family systems?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's made by that guy, Richard Schwartz. Well, he wrote this book, No Bad Parts, kind of about internal family systems. And so he goes into how there is no inner system, inner part of you that is bad in any way, shape, or form, but maybe playing a role that is unhelpful.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, your inner family systems. Do you want to do the page?
Yeah.
Do the page thing?
Yes.
I do too. How many pages does it have?
About 195.
195. Okay. I want to do page 43.
I opened it to 43. That was odd.
Whoa.
It's open to a conversation. So there is a bit of conversations. And so this is a session between a person named Sam and then the doctor. And so he just says, from D, it says, I got it. All right. Well, we don't want to screw everything up for you. On the other hand, I think in some way you do have to keep the ship tight. So how hard you have to work, it is probably this boy in there who's trying to keep Sam away from him. S says that's true. D says, what I'm offering is a possibility of not having to work so hard because the boy is going to be feeling good. S says, okay, but if I wasn't here, then how am I going to help Sam do everything? D says, I get that. So we won't do it without your permission, but if you're willing, I promise we can do what I just said, and you'd be freed up to do something else. S says, yeah, well, if ultimately be better for Sam, I'm into it. And they keep going on about getting into what's best for Sam and what's best for their inner selves. And there's various examples of different sessions like that. So that was just a random one. But the basic premise of inner parts is that they're innate and they're not bad. So that's my book recommendation. Bad. Yes, there's no bad parts.
I like that. Yeah. So on internal family systems, I have heard of those. I have heard of that principle before. Can you expand on that just a little bit for our listeners? Like the general principle of internal family systems.
Yes. So imagine an inner family inside your mind. Maybe you have an inner loving parent. Maybe you have an inner critical parent. Maybe you have an inner child or an inner teenager or an inner firefighter. Different names are for different people. So I do think that the modality has names like firefighter, protector. I don't remember the other ones, but they have different names. And then they have different parts that they play within ourselves and functions that they have. And so even though they might be playing a role that's not helpful, they do serve a purpose.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the theory would be that we all have internal family systems, correct?
Correct.
And it's something that's built in us throughout our lives, throughout our upbringings. We develop our own internal family systems. And that's just an innate thing that happens within us. And that none of them are bad, but the development of our internal family systems guides how we go about our lives. And that different parts of our internal family systems come out as we go through just our daily interactions, et cetera, right?
Yeah. And that tracks
cool.
because we're made up of like our experiences and our relationships. So
Right.
if that's true, and then that's our internal system is our experiences and our relationships and what we know of the world around us, that just kind of tracks for me.
Right. And if you want to know more about this, and you're interested in internal family systems, we will link this below on our YouTube. And that's our book recommendation of the week. And I think that that is just absolutely fascinating, honestly. I had heard of that before in some research that I've done. And I think that it's a really valid theory. And I think that a lot of people would do well to just kind of investigate that, because even if you don't buy into the idea that we have internal family systems, it's still very valid to consider that we have roles that we take on as we go about our daily interactions based on what we've learned throughout our lives. So, it would be kind of cuckoo to say that we didn't take on a protector role when we were in a dangerous situation, or we didn't take on a caretaker role when we were in a caretaking situation, and that we wouldn't maybe draw upon an internal family system when we did that, and that ties back to what our original topic was, which was the myth of getting over it. And the myth of getting over it could very well come from an internal family system. If you grew up and developed a character that was in a family that said, "Hey, dust it off, stand up, shake off the dirt and get over it," then you might develop the kind of personality that thinks you need to get over it. But like Kat said, some things that happened in the past need to be processed today. And it's okay. And it's valid to process that today. And I personally hope that you process at your own speed and you process at your own time, and that you process with the therapy you might need.
There is no timeline for healing. I have a bracelet somewhere, not this one, but I have one that says, "Life is a journey, not a destination." I think it's true for healing as well.
I love that. Life is a journey, not a destination. And that is true for healing as well. So I want to thank you for joining us today on Therapy Unlocked. I love unlocking the mind one conversation at a time with you, Kat. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add for us today?
Nope, this has been awesome.
All right.